Welcome to another episode of the Meal Prep Monday podcast. I'm your host, Allison Schaaf, and today I'm doing a welcome back / re-intro of the Meal Prep Monday podcast. I took a bit of a break, the first break that I've taken since I started, I want to say 2 years ago, but maybe 3 years ago. I think it's been 2 or 3 years. Anyway, I took a few month break, one to allow myself some space. We are going through some construction at our house, had a lot of travel, and wanted to also kind of get back ahead of the game. I like to be a little bit ahead on, well, a lot of things, including meals and podcast episodes. But today, just wanted to get back on the mic, share a few life updates, and also just give you a little preview of what I have planned for the upcoming episodes. And then also, just as always, if you have suggestions or things you'd like me to talk about, please reach out. I'm at Prep Dish on Instagram. Let me know any suggestions you have. I'm always open to that. If you have requests or things, the topic, and we'll get into this a little more, but the main topic of the podcast is meal prep, but I've definitely, over the episodes, expanded that to include, systems and batching and, organizing life at home or at work, but then also just even more kind of general. And I was thinking about that today because I was like, gosh, what are we going to talk about on upcoming episodes? Looking at some topic ideas I had already written down coming up, I've been brainstorming over the past few days, future episodes. And I realized I kind of went back to the original of with Prep Dish. I've always said we help families live healthier, happier lives. And I'm like, well, if you look at it under that kind of broad umbrella, the Meal Prep Monday podcast, I think you could say is aimed a lot of times at, helping you live a healthier, happier life. So with that, now I feel a little more comfortable and okay, here's some of the topics I have come up with. Some of them are more under the, meal prep topic. So I do want to do at least one episode on freezer meal prep. We're wrapping up as I'm recording this, the freezer challenge. We've done actually 2 of those this year. The fall one was really perfectly timed for me. I just kind of emptied out my freezer, defrosted my freezer. So I wanted to have an episode on that, and maybe a few. I don't know. I feel like freezer meals are just really something that I can expand on. They're just so helpful in my life. And I know they are for some of you as well, just through the feedback we get through those challenges. And then other topics. So I just wrapped up a book on sleep, and it has gotten me really I've always been someone who guards and protects my sleep. And then, going through 2 little kids, having one that's still, just isn't, he's not the best sleeper. He's definitely a lot better, but there's, no night is guaranteed. I never have a guaranteed 8 hours every night. Whereas with the first, I feel like I did for the most part, other than the okay, we woke up sick or something like that. But he was a pretty reliable sleeper, and the second just hasn't been. So, I think that's piqued my interest in all things sleep and how to go about getting the best sleep. So that's something I want to talk about, probably even for a few episodes. I think that all of you, going on that healthier lives. I mean, just the research that is talked about in the sleep book is just super fascinating to me and has changed, how I approach multiple things, including bedtime and sleep. It's not just the sleep environment stuff that you always hear. There's a lot more that he talks about that's really kind of reframed how I think about sleep. So that's on my mind for sure. Like I mentioned, we did do quite a bit of travel over the summer, including, spending a month back in Kansas where I grew up, but then also doing the first international trip with 2 little ones. So we went to Germany, Denmark, and Sweden with them for a few weeks, and we'll definitely put together at least 1 or 2 episodes on, kind of travel and food with kiddos. I was going to talk definitely one on food, but if you guys are interested kind of in just travel with toddlers, I can talk about that. But that's on my mind as well. As I mentioned, we have the remodel. It is still very much in process, but the big one that I want to talk about here is the kitchen remodel, which was not, I don't know, I want to say it was a smaller scale. It was mainly just swapping out the island. And I think I've talked about it on another episode, but I wanted to do kind of some follow-up episodes, maybe episodes on kind of what went well, what didn't, in terms of like different selections in the kitchen, like what features am I really loving? And then might also do one, and this is the only one, it's not something I would have thought of, but it's come up a lot now that when we were going through the renovation process, how to handle meals. And this I realized through our Prep Dish Facebook group is something that's of interest to a lot of you. I know a lot of people are, without a kitchen for various reasons, whether it's a remodel or, something comes up and there's like, an issue with, your oven or stove or sink or, whatever it is, or you're out of your house. But how do you handle that? And how did I handle it? There's some things I'm glad I did. There's definitely a list of things I wish I would have done better or, hadn't thought about. And so kind of had to pivot a few times as we were in the remodel, which, of course took longer than was planned or expected from me. I mean, I know in the timeline we were given, which I know is to be expected, but so want to dive into that a little bit. Also, maybe, I don't think, I'll have to go back and see, but I have a practice and it's kind of evolved over time. In the past, I always called it my like super thinking time. And I thought that might be an interesting topic to talk about here on the podcast. It's really kind of how to create more space in your life. And kind of like the connection I was thinking too is like, here I talk a lot about efficiency and productivity and, specifically to meals, but other areas of your life. And it's like, well, if you're doing all that, what is it for? And to me, it's to create space. So that's a topic I want to get into as well. If you're doing all these productivity and efficiency like hacks, like what is it for? And, is it for this space? It's also, for connection, like, I talk about that a lot, having the time to connect with whether it's kids or, a spouse or friends or whatever it is, but like kind of having the space for those social connections as well. So it's not just kind of being efficient and productive for the sake of being efficient and productive, but kind of like for these greater goals, I guess you could say. Gosh, I'm looking through my little list. I think there's more on like kind of the greater list too of topics that are kind of carried over from I was going to say the last season, but that's like it's kind of a few years. We don't really necessarily do seasons, but since before the break, there's definitely kind of some other ideas and topics that I might touch on as well. But that's sort of the short list of what I am excited to talk about right now and that I plan to talk about in upcoming kind of weeks and months. And again, welcome back. I'm glad you're listening either for the first time or again. Hopefully during the break, you were able to, go back through the archives. I, search through there if there was something relevant or interesting to you. And again, definitely reach out and connect if you have any requests. This would be a good time to connect on those because I am in the process of kind of doing the brainstorming and planning for future episodes, although a lot of them do tend to be kind of centered around like what's on my mind, but also what's on the mind of, what do I see popping up in the Facebook group? Things that are, topics that are of interest there are definitely things that I try to carry over into these episodes. It kind of gives me a platform to go more in depth and give more explanation of things. And anyway, yeah, hopefully you enjoy the upcoming episodes. And just a reminder that if you are not a Prep Dish subscriber and you want to try out our meal prep meal plans, you can go to prepdish.com/MPM. That's short for Meal Prep Monday. And you can try out the plans for 2 weeks for free. So if you've never tried them out, this is a great place to start. Just jump in, see if it's a fit. Try it out for free for 2 weeks and, see if it helps. And hope you're able to do that. Okay, that's it. I look forward to some interesting topics in upcoming episodes, and I appreciate you being here and sticking with me.